Hey guys, so you just went over your colonization test study guide with Miss Rothwell. So you are now going to go over, I'm just going to go over a few things with you that I want you to make sure that you understand for your test tomorrow, okay? One of the big things that you've got to remember, okay, and you may want to jot this down on your study guide or star maybe the question that it goes with. Just jot some things down as I'm talking so that way you know exactly what you need to study for your test. I'm posting this video also to the class website under colonization. So if you'd like to go home tonight and play it a couple of times and just kind of refresh what I'm saying in your brain, totally fine, okay? So one thing that I want you to know, what best describes the culture of Spanish South America? So remember, this is when we're talking about how the Spaniards came over and colonized in South America. So what best describes that Spanish culture? You need to remember that the Spanish were at the top of society and everyone else was treated equally. That was below them. That was their whole idea, okay? Next thing you need to really remember is this. Remember, what is the movement, okay, of goods, people, ideas, disease from the old world to the new world and the new world to the old world? That is the Columbian Exchange. You need to remember that, okay? So that's super important. Remember that when you think about all of these different ideas of crops being planted in different places, people suffering during maybe the Middle Passage, the smallpox devastating natives, the Spanish language being used in Latin America, that's the movement and the sharing of ideas and things from the old world to the new world and the new world to the old world, okay? Remember, the old world is Europe. The new world is the Americas, North and South America. Okay, something else you need to remember, okay? The Europeans had a lot of different goods. They had a lot of different things like that. And the Native Americans didn't have some of the things that Europe had. Vice versa, okay? Native Americans had a lot of things that Europeans didn't have. Some of the things that the Europeans did have, okay? They had kings. Remember, they had monarchs that were there that were taking charge of their country. The natives didn't have kings, right? They had leaders of maybe their tribe, but they didn't have a king. Religion. Remember, the Native Americans lacked religion. The Europeans had religion, and they were forcing that on the natives. And then weapons. Yes, okay, the natives did have some weapons, but not as many as the Europeans and not as advanced weaponry as the Europeans did. Something that the Europeans had also, okay, but Native Americans 100% did not have were horses. This was something new that was brought over by the Europeans, was horses, okay? So even though Europeans had kings and religion and weapons, the Native Americans really, the one thing they did not have were horses. You need to remember that. Horses the natives didn't have. That was something new that Europeans brought over, and natives actually really started to use after that were horses, okay? Something else you need to remember. The conquistadors, okay? How did the actions of them help to unite South America and South America that we know today, okay? The Africans and the Indians were united because of those who enslaved them, which were the conquistadors. Remember the encomienda system? That's basically putting the natives to work and then through the Middle Passage and bringing over these Africans to the New World. The fact that Africans and Indians were united against those who enslaved them, that was how the actions of conquistadors helped to unite modern South America. That's how a lot of these cultures and tribes came about. Something else you need to remember, okay? The Middle Passage was not a good thing. Okay, it brought Africans over from their world over in Africa to the Americas and put them to work and sold them to conquistadors and people and treated them like slaves and made them do work for no reason. Remember, that was called the African slave trade. Okay, during the slave trade, you need to remember that slaves were treated terribly. Remember looking at that picture, that image we looked at of the boat? Okay, that boat is showing you how crammed all the natives were in there and how they were packed like cargo for transport. Terrible. All right, something else you need to remember. So remember that geographic conditions is something that majorly hurt the mercantile system, okay? The fact that they were going over and trying to plant crops and things. Think about weather, okay? Weather could severely hurt the mercantilism idea, so think about that. That's something you need to remember. Remember, you need to know what mercantilism is. Remember, it's that idea that there's so much wealth in the world and all the kings and queens were trying to gather that over in Europe. And the way they did that was by sending colonies over to the New World to gather raw materials to send back to the mother country, who would then benefit and profit from that. Okay, something else you need to remember, okay? This is different. There's the Atlantic slave trade, and then there's triangular trade, okay? The triangular trade, what's the best way to remember that? Think of the triangle, okay? Think about a triangle that's going from Europe to Africa to the Americas and making that triangular shape in the ocean, basically. That is the triangular trade. You need to remember that. Okay, something else to remember. Disease, 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 disease. The European colonists brought disease over to the Americas, and that devastated the natives. That caused the native population to drop the most. That's mainly the reason why colonists were so successful in colonizing, is because their diseases wiped out a huge percentage of the population in North and South America. The Europeans, they found out that disease was killing all these natives, and they needed more people to come over and help them do that labor. Remember, so if the encomienda system's failing because these natives are not able to do the forced labor, then they're going to need someone else to do it for them. So what did? They brought Africans over from Africa to do that job for the natives for them, because all these natives were dying because of disease. Disease is super important that you need to remember that, okay? Think about that cargo ship. I want you to think about how that affected the Africans when they were coming over. Okay, I want you to think about how that might have negatively affected them. Think about that being crammed up and not being able to move when you're being transported somewhere that you don't know across rough seas. Okay, that's something super important to remember. So if you're looking here at your test study guide, a great thing you can do is just study over some of these main concepts. Have somebody kind of go over these questions with you. Maybe have mom or dad ask you the questions and you try to answer them, okay? All of these are going to be great tools to help you study for your test. So the best thing you can do is study over your study guide, have somebody quiz you on it, and if you want to, go back and listen to this video 2 or 3 times tonight to help you to study. Okay, jot down some notes if you want to as I'm talking. Some of you are much better visual learners and you see better when you write things down and I'm talking rather than just me talking at you. So a great way to study for your test would be to write down some of the things I just said. And remember, tomorrow you're going to do great. Your test is going to be on a device, so make sure that you bring your device if you have one. If not, we will provide those for you. Please be on your best behavior. Continue to do really well for Miss Rothwell this week. I miss you guys, and I will see you next week. Continue to be on your best behavior, and I hope you all are doing super well, and you will be so prepared for your colonization test tomorrow. Have a great day.